Hey everyone, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com's DevOps TV here at IBM InterConnect, and we're here with some folks from SmartBear. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, starting on the far left with Tony.
Sure, my name's Tony Tam, VP of Swagger Products for SmartBear.
Okay, and to my immediate left.
I'm Kesav Vasudevan. I'm product marketing for Swagger Products at SmartBear Software.
Great. Slow them down. We're not paying you by the minute here, Kesav. All right.
We're
so
paying
guys,
by the word, though.
Yeah, by the word.
Yeah.
So guys, first of all, I don't know if everyone in our audience is familiar with SmartBear. So why don't we start with your kind of little background on SmartBear, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Tony, you're the VP. Why don't you go with
That's
it?
my responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So SmartBear is a leader in software quality tools. So we produce some of the most popular, most well-known software quality tools that there are. SoapUI being one of them.
Yep.
Can't talk to a single developer out there who hasn't used SoapUI. And Swagger is part of the SmartBear portfolio. So it's an interesting company. We've been promoting commercial tools alongside open source tools for now 12 years.
Oh, really?
Very effectively.
So
Yep.
just a newcomer to the market, huh?
Yeah, you know.
And where are you guys based?
Headquarters in Boston. Yep. We've
Okay.
got offices in Florida, Stockholm. I'm out of California, where the weather's better.
We're in Florida.
Where are they?
Coconut Creek.
Coconut Creek, yep.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
You ever come down there, guys?
Not me, not personally.
Oh, I happen to live in Boca Raton. That's it's the town next to
I'll
me.
know
It's
the
Coconut
address when I
Creek.
come down.
Come down. We have plenty of extra office space.
There we go.
Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about Swagger.
Sure. Swagger. It's a fascinating project. I started in 2010. Became part of SmartBear's portfolio in 2015. And we released a SaaS product called Swagger Hub, which ties together the open source tools that we make under the Swagger umbrella, brings them into a SaaS product, hosts it for everyone, adds a lot of value to the API lifecycle.
So, Tony, maybe there's someone listening out here who's never heard of Swagger, has no idea what it is. What do we tell them?
It's a great name for a product. But very importantly, it's a way to describe APIs in a simple, structured manner. And because we've done that well and made it simple to describe them, there's tooling that can consume that description and do really interesting things like write user interfaces or client SDKs or test cases and that sort of thing.
And so Swagger was originally an open source tool, and now as part of the SmartBear portfolio, you guys have sort of a SaaS version of it, which I would imagine, it's paid for under kind of a traditional SaaS model.
Yeah.
Fair enough?
Well, I would say that Swagger is still open source.
You can't unopen source it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, but the way we realize that the Swagger team has realized that organizations can do much more and go beyond the open source, especially now that we're in the API economy. We realize that APIs deserve that first-class treatment. They need to be taken care of just so that they can actually drive strategic and technological goals. And that starts with the design and documentation part of it. So recognizing this need, the Swagger team, in part of SmartBear product portfolio, we've developed something called Swagger Hub. So
Swagger what?
Swagger Hub.
Hub, okay.
Yeah. So Swagger Hub brings together the core capabilities of the open source framework, the Swagger framework, along with its own unique tooling to essentially allow development teams to design, document, build, and deploy APIs, essentially driving consistency across the entire lifecycle, giving your APIs that first-class treatment.
So would this be sort of a open core kind of technology where the core Swagger, of course, remains open source, and then the add-ons or additional items are not necessarily open source nor free?
Yeah, think of it like Swagger is open source. We have a download every second. Lots of people use Swagger. And those core pieces were stitched together with Swagger Hub. And then we add value with permissions, collaboration, and most importantly, integrations. And that's what we're here showing off at InterConnect is we made a really neat integration for Bluemix. So when you design an API inside of Swagger Hub, you can effectively click a button. It'll automatically deploy into Bluemix and be part of the API Connect workflow. So that means that definition is the source of truth for your whole DevOps workflow. And there's no duplication of work or error-prone steps, that sort of thing. So it's a very clean API integration to the Bluemix family of tools.
Excellent. Just if you know, how many active users of Swagger are there, you think?
Well, we have about 80,000 downloads a day. I last stopped counting, but we were at about 15,000 known deployments several years ago. I would say that I think around 85% of the Fortune 100 use Swagger in some sense.
Really?
So lots of people. You probably use it. You don't know that yet. And it feels good knowing that you do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the power of Swagger.
That's the power of Swagger. You know
Exactly.
what? My kids are always talking about that Swagger stuff, but what
See?
do I know?
It's got a lot of
But
reach.
so Keisha, I'd like to hear, because one of the nice things about an open core kind of model like this is that there's real support, right? Because one of the big things with open source is it's great, but when you go for support, it's kind of community driven support. You put your question out on a forum and hope for the best. Some guys know what they're talking about. Some guys don't know what they're. Talk to me about your role in the community and what you're doing with Swagger.
Sure, I'd love to do that. So my role right now and the way I approach the market is understanding how organizations are thinking about their APIs and what are they using APIs for. Like APIs have been around for 40 years, even before the PC was created. But it was only the past 15, 20 years that it actually went mainstream. It was before it was confined to the back end of your applications, but now people are actually realizing that APIs can actually drive a lot of their strategic and technological objectives. So just based on this, we're seeing a lot of movement, a lot of buzz in how organizations and development teams approach APIs. So the way I look at Swagger Hub is it's giving the Swagger team, an opportunity to actually help development teams invest in the API economy, make them understand how to actually go about their designing and documentation and eventually their entire lifecycle for their APIs. So within Swagger Hub and in the SmartBear product portfolio in general, what we try to do is we evangelize it. We talk to other development teams. We tell them the best practices on how to approach their development.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's more than just community support. Now all of our users, the Swagger Hub users as well, they can actually come to us and tell us their problems, and we'll try to guide them on the best solution using something like Swagger Hub or the SmartBear product portfolio.
Excellent. And guys, you mentioned that you now have a Swagger integration into Bluemix. Any idea on, first of all, when was that released?
It was announced. It's been around for 3-4 days probably, and we've been actively demonstrating the integration in the SmartBear booth.
So just a couple of days. So we really haven't seen a lot of. I've had a chance for the Bluemix community to really start.
It's pretty new for the
feedbacking.
community. Yeah.
We'd love to hear more about how as that happens.
It certainly saves a lot of steps for them, so I think it'll go well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what about and Tony, were you one of the the founders of the whole Swagger open source?
Yeah, that was my project back in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you guys sort of doing like Jenkins World for Jenkins, or what do you guys do to kind of keep that community?
There's a couple different aspects. So first off, the specification, the thing that describes how the Swagger definition works, we donated that to the Linux Foundation.
Okay.
We started a group called the Open API Initiative. We brought in small players like Google and Salesforce. IBM, of course, was one of the founding members, helped make all this happen. So there's an aspect around pushing that forward, right? It's kind of like web browsers. We want them all to be compatible with HTML, right?
Sure.
Just like we want all these tools to be compatible with Swagger and Open API docs. So there's that aspect of moving it forward. And then there's the open source tooling that we move forward. And when Kesav goes and evangelizes and works with people, it's not just for our products, it's just saying, here's why you should use Swagger in general. If you use us, great. If not, use open source tools, and lots of people do. So that is really important to us. And SmartBear as a company has put a lot of value on keeping both the commercial pieces going, the open source is going, because as they go up, I mean, our product usage almost parallels the growth in the open source community. So it works great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think it's unique to SmartBear
Not
or
at
even
all.
Swagger. I think if you look at, so my background was information security from about 2000 to 2010, maybe more. So we had a product called Snort, which was open source intrusion detection. SourceFire, Marty Roach, eventually bought by Cisco. And it was, and then Nessus was an open source vulnerability scanner. So, and it's that's that same model. And you see it with Jenkins and CloudBees. You see it with any number of, commercial entities that are kind of not necessarily owning the open source, because who owns the open
Nobody,
source?
yeah.
But managing or shepherding that open source project, because that open source project's success is the company's success.
It's true.
It's intrinsically tied.
And it is a project. You can't just let 100 people loose to just do what they want, or it ends up being a mess. So
then that's not a project.
Yeah.
That's a mob.
Exactly. And at Open Tech Summit on Sunday, we announced a brand new project we've been working on for 8 months, straight to open source, meant for people to take, build it, make it their own, that sort of thing. So
What project is that?
it's a brand new version of our user interface on top of Swagger documentation.
Really?
Huge project for us.
So
and
you open source the UI
entire
of it as
thing,
well.
yeah.
It's an interesting model too.
Yep.
You know, obviously people probably out here have read the Bazaar and the Cathedral and some of the other books on open source and stuff. There are so many ways to skin the cat and still leave room for companies like a SmartBear to have commercial success supporting these open source projects and initiatives. So, and you guys are living proof of it.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us.
Oh,
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Sean, pleasure meeting you,
Nice
man.
meeting you
Tony,
too.
nice meeting
Okay,
you.
thanks a lot.
Hey guys, Swagger from SmartBear here at InterConnect 2017. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com and DevOps TV.